him by saying things that were patently stupid, provocative, anti-constitutional, racist, sexist, misogynist, xenophobic, anti-religious, intolerant, fill in the blanks. He wasn't joking. He was not joking, nor were the people who supported him joking. So here we are. I feel like we are at an age where, we're still trying to do stuff. I came with this great speech about the economy and how the Latino community is absolutely raging in this new economy. And that's what I wanted to talk about. That's a hope that I expect the next time I come, I hope I can talk about that. But everything has changed. We can't just assume that we're going to be talking about business as usual or filling the potholes. God help us, there's another winter storm coming. That's not the deal. We're in a time, and I have spent a lot of time like Steve. I can't sleep. I don't know when the last time was that I actually got a good night's sleep. But I feel like we're in a period of history that is not unlike where this nation might have been in, say, 1858. And, this nation has been through these periods of dislocation before, where everything was called into question. And so maybe the hopeful thing is, as we work our way through whatever it is that lies ahead, maybe we come out of it on the other side as a stronger nation. And I'll remind people, we had the Civil War, and then we had 150 years of relative prosperity. And we started to think about ourselves as a nation in a different light. And the reality is we have not come to terms with who we are as a people. It's now out there in the open. We are a racist nation. We are a racist nation. We can't point to the Civil Rights Act. We can't point to one black president of the United States being elected. We cannot point even to the amazing progress made by Latino leaders, African American leaders, Native leaders, and others as proof that we are not a racist nation. We are still a racist nation. And the election and the ascendancy of this president proves it. I actually think things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. And I appreciate people like Steve, because Steve, I need your help. Because I'm spending a lot of time these days trying to figure out what is the legal grounding on which we stand? What is the constitutional grounding on which we stand? What is the operational situation on the street? We're hearing some stories anecdotally today and firsthand accounts of what the story really is on the street. But we really don't know yet. We're still sorting that through. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking a year into the future, and I'm wondering, are we headed towards a full-on constitutional crisis in the United States of America? And even if this gets legally resolved, let's say the stay turns into a permanent situation and the Supreme Court says, yeah, you guys, you were right after all, and our state statute is upheld in a court. You know what? It's not going to matter. The damage has already been done. The damage has been done because now we've established ourselves as a racist nation. And we can't just say, oh, well, you know what? It was unconstitutional. Or, oh, you know what? It wasn't compliant with state law. Or, you know what? Donald got it wrong. We can't take it back. And it's going to require a complete renaissance in this country in terms of the way we talk about and think about race. And those of you who have been through the bruising process of Ted Wheeler talks about race know it isn't easy. It's really hard to have these conversations and to have them frankly and to do it right. And with decades and decades of broken promises and false hopes, it's going to be doubly hard for us to have that conversation. So I wanted to, instead of talking about the economy and prosperity and acknowledge the great work that this chamber has done and that the broader community has accomplished, I want to add on to Steve's remarks from where I think we are today. And I hold no monopoly on the truth, because things are changing at the speed of light. I hold no monopoly on the truth. I believe Steve is right. The federal government still has the right to enforce federal immigration law. I also believe that we here in cities like Portland and counties like Multnomah and states like Oregon, we have a right, a constitutional, legal right to say, we're not going to assist you in those efforts. I don't understand what the big deal is. When did anybody complain about the Portland police or the Multnomah County sheriff or anybody else not enforcing federal law to collect federal income taxes? I've never heard that complaint. And there's other federal law that we also choose not to enforce because, frankly, we need our local resources for other things here locally. And this battle has been fought long ago. It was enshrined in the 10th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. And perhaps nobody in recent history argued more eloquently in terms of the rights of cities to be sanctuary cities and not be coerced into enforcing federal immigration laws than senior Trump advisor Rudy Giuliani, who previously served as the mayor of New York State and went to court to defend sanctuary status, recognizing the importance of the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. So when Steve and I are sitting here trying to sort out the laws, I've got some news for you. I'm not sure this administration actually cares about the laws or the Constitution of the United States of America. We're going to find out. And if it turns out they do not care, that is the constitutional crisis ahead. And it means life will not be business as usual for any of us going forward. The potholes will have to wait. So, this state statute is very clear also, right? And most of you have read about it, you've heard about it. It limits the ability of local law enforcement to expend resources to enforce federal immigration law. That doesn't mean we're not following the law. And a lot of people can't make that leap. They're like, oh, you're lawbreakers, you're treasonous. You, Wheeler, should be shipped back to Mexico. So, thank you. So, there's a fine point there. We just can't be coerced. And there's more case law upon case law. So, I agree with something important Steve said, which is we keep getting entangled in federal immigration enforcement. There's this thing called the, what do you call it, Steve? A detainer. A detainer. That's holding people without a warrant. And it's unconstitutional. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States makes it very clear that you cannot be held without a warrant. And Clackamas County, as recently as 2014, was slapped down by a federal district court saying it was illegal to hold somebody in the Clackamas County jail system once everything else was taken care of. If the only thing you're holding them for is an immigration charge, you can't do that, Clackamas County. And other counties followed suit, assuming that that would be broadly applicable. There's no difference between the other, Clackamas County and the other 35 in terms of the interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. And so we've got to take a stand here. And I want to be clear. I don't have all the facts. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have time to get another degree. Don't want to. But there's plenty of good attorneys in this town. We'll sort out the law. And we're going to work together collaboratively. The city, the county. I had a good conversation with Chair Kafori yesterday. The sheriff, the police chief, who I think made some important statements yesterday about his commitment to sanctuary status or inclusive status, however you want to describe it. I had a good conversation with Bully Commissioner Avakian yesterday. Obviously, the Attorney General, the courts need to be involved in this, the District Attorney. We're putting together a work group here so we can share and collaborate and look at the same information at the same time. But I want to challenge all of us here. And the challenge is really more to people like me than the Latino community, broadly speaking. The challenge is this: we better be ready for something that goes beyond a legal battle. And the question is, how hard are you willing to bleed for this important principle of openness and inclusion? And I want you to know, this is a principle that I'm ready to lay down for. We are... Well, don't clap yet, Gail, because I'm going to ask you all to lay down right next to me. We're going to remain an open, inclusive, and enriching community for everyone, regardless of their nationality, regardless of their religion, regardless of their immigration status. And we've got to draw a hard line. There's no fuzziness here. And just as people were called to take a clear stand during the Civil War, you may be called to take a clear stand. You have to stand on one side of the line or the other. At some point, you may not be able to straddle that line. And I want you to know, as your mayor, we are going to stand on the side of supporting inclusivity and openness and encouraging people who want to do what they've been doing since the founding of this nation, which is coming here to seek a better life. You know, 20 years ago, I wrote an article. I wish I could find it. It was really poorly written, full of typos, my usual grammatical errors that my wife frequently reminds me of. And it was on a trip I took the weekend before while I was a student in New York to the Statue of Liberty. And I don't think in American history since the week they actually did the groundbreaking ceremony for the Statue of Liberty has the inscription been read more than it has been this week. And the first sentence to me is so beautiful. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. That's what we believe in as a nation. That's what we have believed in as a nation. And as our nation becomes more diverse, that's our great strength. It's not a problem that needs to be solved. The growth of the Latino community in this state is demonstrably good for our economy, and it's good for the community at large. We know this to be the fact. And while we have an administration that, God help them, in their first 2 days, coined the phrase alternative facts, it would be funny, except it's true. You know, people know I'm a nerd. I'm a data and facts guy, and if people just say, oh, you know what, Ted? The facts don't matter. I can't be bothered by the truth or the facts. You know what that's called, other than alternative facts? Propaganda. Our nation is being propagandized. And Steve used the term, the others. All of your problems would go away if only the others weren't standing on your throat. My God, where have we heard this before? Where have we heard this before? The facts matter, and we are being propagandized, and hate crimes are up. Nationally, they're up here too. 2 days ago, some guy stood across from a church where Spanish-speaking Mass was being held and told the parishioners as they're coming out of the service. I mean, I think of my mom or a little old lady coming out of a service clutching their Bible, and some guy is standing across the street yelling at her, saying she's going to hell. We've got to stand firm. And we will stand firm. So here's what we're going to do, and then I'll end, because I was only supposed to speak, Gustavo, for 10 minutes. I'm 15 minutes into my 10-minute speech, as per usual. Number one, government's going to pull together, and we're going to answer Steve's questions, and we're going to get our act together, and we're going to stand strong on the law and on the U.S. Constitution. I'm not ready to throw the U.S. Constitution into the garbage can, even though this president seems determined to do so. I am not going to do that. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that. We're not going to give it up. That's everybody's birthright. Number two, whatever comes next, we are going to stand with the immigrant community. Come hell, come high water. The immigrant community also needs real facts to back them. One of my least favorite organizations is the Cato Institute. Does anybody know the Cato Institute? Okay, these are smart guys, but they walk around with the fountainhead in their back pocket, and they can quote every line of, Ayn Rand, and they introduce each other and say who's John Galt and all that kind of thing. I'm just joking. I'm taking a cheap shot. I shouldn't do that. But they're conservative guys, right? They're never going to agree with me on anything except this. They did a study, and I think given their political bearings, their information here is unimpeachable and important. They have said unequivocally the crime rate amongst immigrants who come to the United States is significantly lower than the crime rate for the population at large. Again, immigrants break the law less than everybody else. They come here to better their lives. They're not here to break the law. They're coming here to take advantage of the same kind of things that our families came here for, whether it was generations ago or whether it was last week. So we've got to start pushing back on the propaganda machine. Portland polite ain't going to cut it anymore, folks. It's not going to cut it. It's not in our DNA to be combative and seek conflict. It's certainly not in mine, but that's the new reality, and that's how high the stakes have become. I am actually very hopeful and very optimistic. I just want to close on this note. It's going to be a really tough time ahead. This is going to be a very difficult 4 years. It's going to call on the best that we have to offer as a community and as families and as individuals. The institutions in this community, nonprofits, the church, philanthropic organizations, schools, churches, whoever, they're going to have to pull together and work together in ways that, frankly, we haven't done as effectively in recent years. And government is going to absolutely have to govern with a spine. And we're going to do that here in Portland, Oregon. We're going to break through this noise. And folks, not everybody has the luxury of living in a blue state the way we do. We have to fight doubly hard because there are people elsewhere who will not be in a position where they can risk it the same way we will be able to from the relative safety of a blue state. Are you prepared to do that? Yes. Good, thank you. So, remember what I said. Remember what I said. If we can get through this, and we will get through this, I actually believe the nation can finally move forward in a really productive and positive way when it comes to discussions around race. We've got to make this breakthrough. So let's lock arms, buck up, because it's not going to be easy, and let's bull through to whatever comes next. Thank you for having me.